This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
My countrymen and my friends, I had hoped against hope that some miracle would prevent a devastating war and bring to an end the invasion.
This most serious threat World Wrestling Federation has ever known.
The long-term future of sports entertainment could change forever.
A succession of actual wars have shaken the entire world and have threatened to bring on the gigantic conflict, which is today, unhappily, a fact.
No force of nature and no act of God could stop this invasion from happening.
I have said not once but many times that I have seen war and that I hate war.
This is our last chance.
There's no going back. There is no tomorrow. They want to finish us all.
Feel this moment for the rest of your life.
This war is only half over, and it could damn well be lost.
We're laying it all on the line.
Nothing can stop the WCW and ECW.
Austin is going to lead us into invasion.
Lift up your heart. All will come right.
We will kick WCW and ECW's.
No WWF superstar is going to deny us from our destiny.
The sports entertainment.
I have seen war, and I hate war.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to another episode of Nation Invasion. This is episode 19, where tonight me and my guests, we are going to be covering Raw from September 10th, 2001, and SmackDown September 13th, 2001. It's a little bit tricky because the Raw on Monday Night Raw, you have the whole invasion angle and you're going through storyline and what is going to happen leading up to Unforgiven. However, the Tuesday after Raw was September 11th, 2001, and we all know what happened. There were the terroristic attacks on the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and the plane that flew into the field outside of Pennsylvania that was supposedly going to be the Pentagon plane as well. And when that happened, they wanted to do a special live SmackDown. They canceled the SmackDown from Tuesday, September 11th, and they did it on September 13th. So they broke the angles and they wanted to put on a show for everybody. But before we deep dive into the episodes, let me bring in my guest. He is the host of A La Carte and Greetings from Allentown. That is Mr. Keith Langston. Keith, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, you know what, Gruney? I will give you this. For a man who was just a boy when one of the darkest days in American history happened, you did real well, kind of giving a brief overview of what happened. Yes. Thank you so much, though, for having me on. I remember when I think you and I were starting to talk about me coming back. And I said, if you want me to do like the 9/11 episode, I will. And you were like, all right, because I think, yeah. And the only reason I feel that I would be able to help you do it justice, and not Sid justice, but justice is because while you were a wee little tyke running around the mean streets of where is it you live again in Connecticut?
I live in New Fairfield, Connecticut.
Fairfield, Connecticut. Yeah, Deerfield, Connecticut. I know that I was already, getting ready to sprout grays on my chinny chin chin. So I'm an older man. So I think together, I think you and I can get through this. And but I'm excited to be here. I love this show. I love you. You're like my freaking little booby, and I can't wait to help you get through this.
Now, Steve, where were you exactly when you got the news?
Don't stop calling me Steve again. You
called me Jesus. Steve. Here we go. Yeah, no, I don't know why I get those mixed up. Keith, I'm sorry. I will never say it again.
Whatever you want, buddy. What were you going to say?
Keith, where were you when you heard the news, or were you watching on television these attacks happening? Did you flip over to Channel 8 on Good Morning America, or what were you doing, Keith?
So I was actually getting ready to leave my house to go to school for the day. I was in college and I was commuting, and I was getting ready, and I had always listened ever since I was a teenager to Howard Stern. And so I was listening live, and I'll never forget it. He was talking about being at a strip club with Pamela Anderson, and she was giving him a lap dance, and then all of a sudden they came in and they said, "Hey, we just want to let you know that a plane hit the World Trade Center." And right away it was like, remember that time that plane hit the Empire State Building back in like the 1930s or the 1940s, and everyone thought it was just an accident, and that, but then I kind of put on the news after the second plane hit, actually not as the second plane hit, because I watched the second plane hit live, but I think I had turned on the news and I was watching it while they were talking about it, and I saw it happen live. And I remember my dad was home, and I went and I said, "Dad," I go, "You freaking watching this?" And he was like, "Oh my God." And I just went, "What the fuck? Like, what are we doing here?" So it was, and then it was scary, because then you started hearing that, obviously, then we heard about the Pentagon, we heard about the plane in Pennsylvania, and the field in Pennsylvania. We didn't know how many other planes were, ready to attack, kind of thing, and just how deep this web went, and all this. So it was such a panic. And then you found out that the planes were the ones that left from Boston. It was like, great. So that means like this is the epicenter of where this is all being planned, is here. So it was rough. It was very, very rough. I mean, one of the things that I talk about a lot now is, especially with my nephew, is I remember the world pre 9/11, and it was very different. It was. I mean, security for airport, like there really wasn't very enhanced security. Like, you could go up to the gate with somebody who was leaving, and you could like sit with them at the gate until they boarded their plane and everything. Like, none of that now. Like, there was no taking off your shoes. I mean, I remember when the whole shoe thing happened, because there was the guy, I think like the following year, that was like the shoe bomber on the plane, and then we all had to start taking our shoes off and all this. And so we changed so fast in this country, and a lot of what we did was we gave up a lot of our freedom for safety and security because we were afraid. And it hasn't really gone back ever since. Like, we've kind of continued down this path of just being fearful of travel, being fearful of people who don't look like us, who don't maybe, worship the same God that we do, and all this. And it's been just a continued divide, I feel. But, the one thing I will say was, I remember David Letterman coming back saying, like, I think David Letterman was the first one to air his show, and he was like, America needs to laugh again, or something, or it's time for us to laugh again. But the funny thing is that I think the first entertainment that came back after 9/11 was the WWF. And it was kind of cool, because I remember that SmackDown, which we're going to cover, but I remember watching it live, and just like The Rock is there. He's got the friggin' Just Bring It shirt with, like, I think the American flag on it. And it kind of was like, you know what? This is the perfect thing to represent, I felt, our country coming back, because it's wrestling. And like, wrestling is kind of like, at least especially the Attitude Era, I feel was the epitome of what America was, at the time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, that's what I was doing.
So I was 9. Oh, by the way, did they cancel class for you?
I didn't go. I wasn't going anyway. I mean, I'm sure they did. But I mean, classes were already going on, because I mean, there was 7:30 classes and 8 o'clock classes, and it didn't really happen until after 8 o'clock. So yeah, but I remember the eeriness too, because everybody for a good couple of days afterwards too, like, weren't even leaving their television sets. Like they were just stuck glued to the TV. So very eerie driving around.
So I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
Class started around 8:30ish.
Yeah.
I had a little stomach bug that morning, and my mom kept me home. She got a phone call, and it was from my friend's mom, my sister's friend's mom, who said either turn on the TV or go to a radio station. And they were talking about how a plane had crashed into the World Trade Center. And to me, and a little, like not even a disability thing either, but to me it was like, oh, a plane crashed into a building. I didn't know, no idea what was going on. I'm a fourth grader who's 9, who's sick. I just want to watch TV. I just think, oh, it's a plane crash. You hear about plane crashes all the time.
Yeah.
Until it was going on every other channel, and there was some talking going on. It's like, oh, okay, so somebody took control of a plane and made this happen. And it wasn't until a couple of days later that I finally understood. It's like, we're going to war and we have to help the troops and donate stuff. So that's just how I thought. I thought it was just a regular old plane crash until you think, oh, well, they crashed into both buildings. Like, well, that doesn't happen by accident. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, Keith, like I said, as we cover these episodes, the first one we're going to cover is Raw from September 10th, 2001. That is the episode where we're on point with storylines. So we're taking stories from last September 4th SmackDown, and we're starting a show. It won't be until SmackDown September 13th where the storyline stops. So without further ado, do you want to cover the Raw first?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's rock it. You want to do it? You go ahead.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. We're live here in San Antonio. We have highlights from last week's SmackDown where Rob Van Dam pinned Stone Cold Steve Austin in a one-on-one match. Stone Cold wanted to teach RVD a lesson because he thinks that Rob Van Dam was Kurt Angle in his psychological mind. He thought Rob Van Dam was Kurt Angle and disrespecting Stone Cold. So Kurt Angle came out and distracted Austin, and RVD rolled him up for the win. So the Stone Cold and the Alliance come out. Austin says the fans think Austin is ashamed that RVD beat him. He says his name is Stone Cold and he is the WWF champion. He hates that the fans will cheer for Kurt Angle. Austin calls RVD into the ring. Austin asks if RVD is proud he beat him. RVD tells him that I'm proud to be Rob Van Dam and I don't care who I beat. RVD says he doesn't like Stone Cold Steve Austin because Austin said, I don't like you. And Van Dam said, well, I don't like you either. But instead of like beating down RVD for disrespect, he hugs him and he praises Rob Van Dam for having backbone and confidence. So Austin says that Rob Van Dam should challenge Kurt Angle tonight. Rob Van Dam accepts. So Stone Cold is using Van Dam to wear out Kurt Angle before this fight at Unforgiven. And then so Test gets the idea to come into the ring. He challenges The Rock to a match. And then Kanyon comes to the ring and says he's going to put on an open challenge. Before I get to the last guy who comes in, what do you think of this segment so far, Keith?
I mean, this I feel like is classic post-invasion pay-per-view where you have, because Austin continues on with this like paranoid champion angle right into the Alliance, which is great. I think I've said before, I love Austin all the time anyway, but I did love Austin in 01. I liked his extended run as a heel. It was kind of odd for me to have him be the head of the invasion and the Alliance, but only if it would have made more sense if he went in there and he was like, I've been a Paul E guy my whole life kind of thing, because I knowing how Austin got fired from WCW, it was always weird that like he was representing WCW, and it would have been better if he was just like the ECW guy and that's it. So, but you know what, now that I think of it, he never really said one way or the other what he was. He was just part of the alliance. So I'll go with this and say the reason why he was part of the alliance is because Paulie was there. So I'll say that. But regardless, I love that. I love this like weekly thing he was doing where he was kind of like calling out members of the alliance and kind of like questioning their loyalty. And he does it with Rob Van Dam. And I like that. It's just good. I also loved that this Rob Van Dam angle where they're really kind of teasing, and it's a total tease, but they're really teasing that like Rob Van Dam is going to like turn his back on the alliance and kind of like join up with, or at least not join up with WWE, but like, or WWF, excuse me, but like go anti-Austin and kind of like feud with, like they were definitely teasing that he was going to be a bigger deal in that match against Angle at the pay-per-view. So yeah, I like it.
Mm-hmm. As we get further into the month of October, we'll see more of Rob Van Dam as well. But this is just the start. And Rob Van Dam is going to have a great 3 months, even going into December. So the fans don't boo Rob Van Dam. They cheer for Rob Van Dam. Then we have Taz. He comes into the ring. Taz says Kurt Angle will kick Stone Cold's ass. And then Stone Cold's like, come again? And Taz goes, I think there's a good chance that Kurt Angle's going to kick your ass and take your title. So Stone Cold says, oh, I love the confidence in you, Taz. But he flips him the bird and he gives Taz the stunner. Then he orders Tess to give Taz a big boot and then a 5-star frog splash to Taz by RVD. So Stone Cold doesn't like when you root against him, but he'll cheer you on if you step up to the plate.
It's so good.
Mm-hmm. So Taz getting a stomp in a mud hole. Stone Cold stomped a mud hole in Taz and gave everybody the finishers to Taz as well. Now we have Christian versus Billy Gunn. But before we get there, to go back to what you said about Stone Cold, if it said Alliance leader or WCW, ECW leader, it would have made more sense instead of just putting in WCW.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of where, I mean, I know that it's real funny because I feel like, and actually I talked about this on, not to plug another show, but I can't remember if it's aired or not. I don't think it's aired yet, but I talked about it on an episode of The Shit Take with Sean Kidd over on the Backbone Network, where I talked about how, it hasn't aired yet, but it was my most recent one where, and I could talk about it a little bit, but like, I said that I would have liked to have seen Paul Heyman bring Vince in as like a silent partner, monetary wise, in like the late 90s, because what I would have loved is to see and have a vision of ECW taking over and being the number 2 competitor to WWF. And like with the demise of WCW, not having ECW lose any of the guys to WCW, and just have this like crossover kind of how they kind of ended up doing things when they did the brand split once, SmackDown and Raw started doing the brand split, where you would have guys cross over and compete on each show. And I said that it would have been great because I think ECW, I think Paul Heyman's one of the best minds in wrestling. And I think that just one of the things that killed him was the fact that he wasn't as lucrative as, say, WCW or WWF, and he lost people because of money and stuff. So if you had a guy that was kind of like his Billionaire Ted almost, maybe he would have been able to stay in business, but not have it be an in-business competition where they're killing each other, but it's almost like they're working together to kill WCW in like 2000, 2001. And then maybe then you come and you do this invasion angle or whatever, where it's ECW is leading the charge, and they're bringing in people from WCW because, again, if you look at how everything kind of pans out, and I know we're getting ahead of ourselves with the Survivor Series, the friggin' Survivor Series team is basically a WWF versus WWF match. And it's just so silly. Like, it's silly. And especially, like, when you had, like, and that's why, like, Chris Jericho, I freaking loved that Jericho never left. Like, he never turned his back on the WWF. I mean, he kind of turned his back on The Rock, but he never turned his back on the WWF. And the thing I loved about that was because Chris Jericho was criminally, like, screwed over by WCW. So he was like, forget this. I'm not ever going to help them about. And it was almost like he kept kayfabe so well in 2001. Whereas, like, I don't understand Austin's motivation. I guess because Eric Bischoff's not running the thing, he doesn't really care. So I guess that's okay. But yeah, that's just my whole thing with the invasion angle.
Well, they've always said that they needed Stone Cold to be a heel because they had no star power in the WCW guys. Like, we need somebody. Stone Cold's got to go heel.
That's always the big what if, is like, what if Triple H had never gotten hurt? Like, would Triple H have turned and, like, joined with, like, the invasion? You know, because technically he was still married to Stephanie, quote unquote, you know? So it's like, I wonder, like, would that have been a thing where, like, he would have turned his back on, like, and, like, you would have had Austin turn face and lead the WWF, and then you have Triple H turning heel and kind of leading the alliance? Because that almost would have made more sense had Triple H not gotten hurt.
Yep. So we have now Christian versus Billy Gunn. Punches by Christian, clothesline by Billy. Billy runs into the post, backbreaker by Christian. Billy throws Christian into the post, backdrop and clothesline by Billy. A tilt-a-whirl slam to Christian. Christian rolls up Billy Gunn using the ropes, and he gets the pin. So Christian is your winner. For this matchup, I gave it a 1.25 stars. It was okay. There were some good matches here. There were some good moves by Billy and a little bit of offense from Christian, but he cheats to win.
Yeah.
He's supposed to do that, but I just don't think that Christian has a lot of offensive moves besides, like, cheating moves, you know?
Right. Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I mean, the star ratings, I'm going to probably agree and defer to you a lot on these, only because you're much better at the star ratings than I am. And I'm not saying that as a cop-out. I'm just saying, like, I always end up saying, like, I'm either way off or I overvalue. So
I do too.
Yeah. So I'm either way off where, like, you give it a star and I give it, like, a dud, or then I'm like, no, wait, man, this is a 3-star match. But I would agree with you on this.
Billy slams Christian into the guardrail, a low blow to Billy. Christian hits Billy with a chair, and then we get a concerto. So like Edge, Christian hits Billy Gunn with the one-man concerto as well. Christian has not given himself up to the alliance yet. And right away, I just want to bring this up. Right away, when Steven Richards comes back and he, like, beats up the Undertaker with KRONIK, he is already put into the alliance. Steven Richards comes out with the alliance banner under his name when he comes out when he came out on last SmackDown. It's like, oh, he's already part of the alliance. Where Christian, he's a free agent, but they still have him under the WWF, even though he turned on Edge.
Yeah. This heel run for Christian is so bizarre because, like, it doesn't make any sense for him to be part of the alliance. And it's like the only reason he's part of the alliance is because he's feuding with Edge.
Or because you're a heel. And like Tim Capel said, all bad guys who are getting booed in WWF go to the alliance.
Right. But I didn't like this part. And this is when he's using the Christian. On your. I mean, that's a great theme song. But other than that, I didn't like this run of Christian. I've always felt, I mean, I know that, like, they were getting ready to push Edge to the moon. I still don't know why they felt they had to do that, which is funny because Edge doesn't really hit his stride until he becomes the rated R superstar. And it's kind of like I feel like he flounders in like the mid card until he gets the cash in cashes in and wins the title. And then you start to see Edge become Edge. And it's like, I really feel like they didn't even need to split these guys up. Like, they could have kept these guys going for a long time. And they would have been an awesome tag team to put in. Because, again, if you think about the tag teams at this time, it's wicked weird with the tag teams. Like, even though they have so much talent, the tag team division is so friggin' bizarre in 2001. So, I don't know.
Yes. There weren't that many tag teams left in 2001 until it felt like until Team Angle came and they did the Los Guerreros that they were starting to have fun again with tag teams. But here, all you had was Undertaker and Kane. That's going downhill. The Dudley Boys, they're still popular. The Hardy Boys and Billy Gunn and the Big Show. So I enjoyed Christian's run here a little bit because I love the jealousiness when he was like, it's all your fault, Edge. I enjoyed Christian's anger. I kind of like this one better than when they tried doing the Hardy Boys splitting up in December of 01. We'll see. This was better, and I loved the jealous brother Christian. He put on the best act doing the whole, oh, I'm better than you. You think you're better than me. Oh, Edge and Christian. I just loved Christian's attitude on the mic. He cut those promos really well.
He does. I just and I don't hate it. I'm one of those people where I kind of, when it comes to splitting a tag team up, I always feel like they split them up too soon. Either too soon or too late. And I think this one I felt it was too soon, but I can understand the value of it. So I'm not gonna fight you on this.
All right. Test is backstage with Steph. Test says that he is going to destroy The Rock. Test thanks Steph for breaking up with him back in 1999. Steph says to make it a handicap match. And she ultimately makes a mistake by saying, let Rock choose his partner. So we're going back to 1999 here.
I mean, it was nice that the WWF was going back. They usually don't go very far back in time. So it was nice that especially since, God, we went through the whole Shane and Test, which is funny because now Shane and Test are, I guess, friends. Then you had the whole McMahon Helmsley era where Test doesn't Test start doing TNA? Is that that's right after that?
He gets beat up by Triple H so many times, but then he's used as an ally by D-Generation X towards the end of the McMahon Helmsley era when they had everyone together and DX was still strong, that they used TNA as allies to help Shane and Triple H.
Yeah, it's so weird. What a weird. I always wondered, do you think that Stephanie was really in a relationship with him or no? Because it just seems so odd that, like, I don't know. I know Tess was, kind of over. I think he got way over because of the feud with Shane, but I just can't imagine that he was like, out of all the guys on the roster in like 99, they went with fucking Test.
Well, I think it's because like Stephanie's goody two shoes attitude, and there was only one way and it worked. And it sucks because everyone thought Test was going to win the WWF title at Survivor Series 1999.
Yeah.
And then something just went wrong where Vince was like, this isn't going to work. And I really do think it worked out for the better because Test gets some runs with the tag team titles, the European title and everything. So I think it worked out for everybody. It just sucks how it ended.
His first run before he like left and came back and was on like all
Juice.
the steroids.
Yep.
he wasn't bad. He really
No.
wasn't. Like, I actually liked Test. First of all, he had a good look, because he had the physique. He was tall. I felt like I always thought he looked like a young Kevin Nash. So you have a guy who's a lot like the dude on the other channel. He kind of portrayed that cool vibe that Kevin Nash was doing, not necessarily Diesel, but Kevin Nash. And then his fucking music was a banger, dude. Like, my college roommate fucking loved the Test. He would wake up in the morning at like 10 o'clock and he'd be like, Test, this is the Test. He loved that fucking music. And I mean, he wasn't that bad, like, for Attitude Era wrestling. Like, he was never going to wrestle, like, an Iron Man match, but he wasn't that bad.
No, that big boot was devastating as
Sure.
well.
I mean, and I remember, you know what? I never told you. I went to WWF New York. I was there for No Way Out 2001, and he was the host. And,
awesome.
And he was the European champion at the time. And I went up to get an autograph, and I went, "Hey, buddy," I go, when are you gonna get a run with the big belts? And he was like, "I don't know, man." And I was laughing when I sat back. I was like, Test. No, I didn't laugh at his face. I laughed when I sat back down, and I was like, "Fucking Test is the world champ. That's amazing." But, yeah, man, I liked that guy. And you're right. He was a pretty good tag champ, and he won the fucking Intercontinental title and the European champion. I mean, he was definitely winning titles.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
He was.
Now we have. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No problem.
Moving along.
I can understand. Everyone thought, Test's going to get the WWF belt, and it was a flop. So it sucks, but that big boot is still devastating.
Yeah.
Now we have the Hardy Boys and Lita in a 6-man or a 6-person intergender tag team match.
Yeah.
Hardy Boys and Lita versus Lance Storm, Hurricane, and Ivory. Matt and Hurricane start. Hip toss by Matt. Poetry in motion to Hurricane. Ivory knees Jeff. Leg drop by Lance. Leg drop by Hurricane. Ivory slaps Jeff. Drop kick to Jeff. Crossbody by Hurricane. Jawbreaker by Jeff. Crossbody to Lance by Jeff. Suplex by Matt. Attack to Ivory and Lita. Russian leg sweep to Ivory. Super kick to Jeff. Hurricanrana to Hurricane. Ivory gets a twist of fate and a moonsault by Lita for the win. For this matchup, I went 2 1/4. Lots of tag action. Poor Ivory having to get the twist of fate and the moonsault for the win. But a lot of action between both teams. They don't make these guys look like losers. Even though they lose, they still have good wrestling skills and can really keep up. So a lot of high-flying action. I go 2 1/4.
I actually, you know what? I would say 2 1/4. I go 2 1/2. I actually go up a half, maybe even 2 3/4, because there's a lot of good action in this. This is a back and forth, and it's not very long either. It's only like, I'm looking at Cage Match. I think it's like 6:19, so it's not even that long. But it seems like they get a lot done in this. It's an odd combination of Lance Storm, Hurricane, and Ivory, but I fucking love Lance Storm, and Storm, Hurricane. Like, that's kind of funny. Like, they should have renamed themselves the Natural Disasters, like the New Natural Disasters. I know you don't want to put new, but the Natural Disasters would have been good if they had Lance Storm and the Hurricane. That would have been great. But yeah, no. You know what? One of the highlights of WCW in the dying days was Sugar Shane Helms, and when he came over, which I knew he was going to, I was really excited. I did love the whole Hurricane transition thing, though, because that was fucking funny. So I like that. And
yes,
yeah, and then of course, like, he made friggin' chicken salad out of chicken shit, like, with that whole thing with Mighty Molly and the superhero in training and all that. So I mean, he did so much good shit with that, which, kudos to him. And but up until that point, you could tell, like, because he's the only one I think of. What was that group he was in with Evan Courageous? What was that group?
3 Count.
Yeah, he was the only one from 3 Count, I think, that came over, right?
Well, Shannon
Moore did, but Shannon
yeah.
Moore was on, wasn't he on SmackDown pretty much the whole time?
He was with Matt Hardy's like V1. He came after the invasion. Evan Courageous got a look through the developmental, but they realized he's got nothing.
Yeah. So, yeah. And in all honesty, the superstar out of those three was Greg
Hurricane.
Helms. So,
Greg Helms.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Cole goes into The Rock's locker room, but The Rock just comes out of the shower, so Michael Cole closed the door. Then we have APA. They're backstage playing cards. Jericho comes in and tells them to get ready for their match. And if you think we're done with backstage segments, think again. As Regal is backstage with Tajiri in his office. Tajiri wants to fight Canyon for the U.S. title. Regal tells Tajiri he can do it. Go ahead. And Tori ends up kissing Tajiri. It's like, yay, let's go. And then Michael Cole is backstage now with The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And The Rock goes, eye contact, Michael Cole. Stop looking at the people's strudel. He accuses Michael Cole of looking at the people's strudel. And then he says The Rock's partner, Tess's partner, has to be fast and easy and must have no testicles at all. And with a song too, The Rock chooses Stephanie as Tess's partner. Here comes the Tess and the hoe with the enormous breast. Watch as they go, getting their asses kicked all over San Antonio. As The Rock chooses Stephanie as Tess' partner. So Stephanie's words have backfired on her, Keith.
Yes, absolutely, as they should. I mean, it's so funny seeing Stephanie, whenever she had to wrestle. I mean, we saw enough of it in 99, 2000, when she was the women's champ and everything. But yeah, there was no reason for Stephanie to be in the ring at all because, man, she had those massive boobs. She had just gotten that boob job. So it's like, how's she going to do this? She's not a professional. She's not a trained athlete. But then again, this is the era when every friggin' McMahon was in the ring. I mean, Jesus, even Linda was getting in the ring. So,
But it was a very fun segment with The Rock choosing Stephanie as his partner.
Kind of odd that Vince isn't around, right?
I believe at this time he was having knee surgery.
Oh, really?
Yes. The whole storyline with that was he and Linda were getting back on track and in therapy to work out the whole divorce thing that started in late 2000, and then Linda served Vince with divorce papers.
Yeah.
Vince leaves knowing that The Rock has the WWF in good hands in 2001. So he leaves, and we'll see him on SmackDown too, but he was gone. Yes.
Is that when Vince goes, I'm the genetic jackhammer?
Yes, it was all of that basically.
Jesus. Okay. Great.
So now we have the Dudley Boys and Rhino. They take on Chris Jericho and the APA. Devon and Farouk start off. Power slam by Farouk. Bubba and Rhino pull Y2J into the post.
Yeah.
Spinebuster by Rhino. Jericho throws Bubba off the turnbuckle. Tag to Rhino and Bradshaw. Fallaway slam to Devon. Spinebuster to Farouk. Missile dropkick to Rhino. Springboard dropkick to Bubba. Rhino misses a gore. Clothesline by Bradshaw and a lion salt by Jericho for the win. For this matchup, I went 2 1/4 as well.
Wow. Okay. All right. I mean, again, I went 2 3/4. I think it's another. Again, this is that kind of continuation of the quick crash TV matches. Again, this is not even 5 minutes long, but it's just a good ass kicking match. I liked it a lot. Plus, it's Jericho, Farouk, Bradshaw, all the 6 people involved here. Rhino and the Dudleys. I mean, those are all just great. Good ass kicking match. I like that.
Yeah, it was very good. I think I underrated. I probably would give it 2.5.
Yeah, all right, I'll go.
We're seeing the best out of Rhino.
Yes. For an underrated guy too, and at least in WWF, underrated.
Yes. Tess and Steph are backstage. Steph says she wants to be a part of the match and be Tess's partner and kick the Rock's ass. And then Stone Cold is backstage. RVD comes in. RVD asks if he should put the hardcore title on the line. Austin says yes. Austin says he sees RVD as the next Stone Cold. But Rob Van Dam says he just wants to be himself. And that's Rob Van Dam.
Yep.
So Austin is trying to bait RVD because if he puts the hardcore title on the line, that means that Kurt Angle can get hurt more by getting hurt with chairs and things. So it's good on Austin to get Rob Van Dam motivated to put the hardcore title on the line.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's also good that Rob Van Dam doesn't care what Austin says. I don't want to be the next you, Steve. I want to be who I am, Rob Van Dam. So Van Dam is taking no shit.
Yeah, and part of that is just you hear a lot of that now, where people always say, "Is he trying to be the next Mick Foley? Is he trying to be the next Bret Hart?" It's like, no, I don't want to be the next. I want to be the first. Like, he wants to be the first Rob Van Dam, not the next Stone Cold Steve Austin. So I like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff.
Now we have Undertaker versus Booker T.
Oh my God.
Boot to Booker T. Booker bounces Taker off the rope. Booker goes into the steps. Taker goes into the post and steps. Flying clothesline to Booker. Spinning heel kick to Taker. Steven Richards comes in the ring and gets taken down. Scissors kick to The Undertaker for the win. Keith, for this match, I went a star in 3/4 because I think I had probably overrating it, but I liked these two. Here's the former WCW champion going up against the big dog. These two haven't really fought each other in a one-on-one match. We saw some glimpses, but not really a one-on-one match. Steven Richards coming in just to enhance the storyline is okay, but I thought we could see a little bit more from these guys. And it's weird. It's not weird, but it's interesting that this wasn't a disqualification beatdown. The Undertaker actually gets pinned here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, a rarity to see The Undertaker lose, too, especially like in a non-pay-per-view type setting. Yeah, I wouldn't even go as high as you. It's seeing Steven Richards. It's like, what? Like, anytime you see Steven Richards, I just want to turn the television channel. But we got some interesting stuff after the bout, right?
Yep. Taker tries to give Steven a last ride, but KRONIK comes out and they beat on Taker. Taker fights back, but Brian Adams clotheslines Taker. Then KRONIK slam Undertaker through the table. So you see Undertaker going out in a stretcher, getting tossed out. And I think this is where we have this awesome segment between Paul Heyman and Jim Ross, where Paul's like, you're running out of WWF superstars. What are you going to do, JR? And Jim Ross just laid into Stone Cold, laid into Paul in the alliance. He goes, oh, well, you know what? Stone Cold would have thrown Angle off the bridge if the roles were reversed, and Heyman's in shock. And Paul's like, well, Angle would have thrown him. And JR's like, well, he had a kiddie pool. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going home. I wouldn't come work for the Alliance. This was great because Jim Ross and Paul Heyman arguing were like two brothers having a fight, and it was a great segment.
Absolutely. I actually loved this time period where you have Paul Heyman as the I mean, I guess the color man. It's so good, but it just was great because it was just so awesome to see the two of them like bicker back and forth. Like you said, like brothers. I think it's great, Plus, I had already I was done with the puppies and all that from friggin' Jerry Lawler. So it was very refreshing to have Paul Heyman. I know he was going to lose his job at the end of Survivor Series. Spoiler alert for anybody that didn't watch this ahead of time, but I still loved it. I was still very happy with this announced team.
Yes, I am too. I think that Paul Heyman is better than King. King had a lot of comedy, but I can't imagine Jerry Lawler calling WrestleMania 17.
No.
Or even the rumors of him being the WCW announced team with Tony Schiavone. No, this was perfect for Paul Heyman at the time. King left at the best time.
Well, and then it would have been stupid if he had done if it was Jerry Lawler, because don't forget Jerry Lawler notoriously was anti ECW.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have been, and Jerry. I don't think Jerry Lawler ever did anything with WCW, like ever. I don't think. So.
No, but during the original plans, like before the whole thing came crashing down, what they wanted, Jerry said Jerry was around the Tampa area, hanging around with the WCW crew when WCW went under. So that's where they got the idea. That's where I think the observers got the idea, they're going to bring back Jerry Lawler with Tony Schiavone because he was around the Tampa area and he's in talks with bringing them back for the WWF because they didn't really know what to do with who was going to come in. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So funny, the Tampa area.
Or the Panama City Beach area, one of the two.
It's just really funny. It's like they're going to bring him around because he happens to be living in the area. It's like, okay.
Yeah, and he was like, I got a contract with WCW at home, and that's what happens. So now Stephanie is on the phone with Shane. She says that Shane needs to be supportive of her decision and doesn't care what Triple H thinks. And now we have a WCW U.S. title match. It is Kanyon versus Tajiri. Punches by Kanyon, spinning heel kick by Tajiri, Samoan drop by Kanyon, a backbreaker by Tajiri, handspring elbow by Tajiri. Then the tarantula to Kanyon. Tori accidentally hits Tajiri with the U.S. title, but he kicks out. The miss to Kanyon and a back kick and a kick in the face for the win. So we have a new WCW U.S. champion. It is Tajiri as he and Tori celebrate. For this match, I went 2 stars. I enjoyed this one, Keith.
Yeah. I would agree. I think 2 stars is probably it. I'm trying to remember. Was Kanyon just given the U.S. title?
He was.
Yeah, right? Because Booker T was the U.S. champ and the WCW champ.
Yes.
And then what? Did he just relinquish the U.S. title?
He gave it to Kanyon as a gift, and Stephanie said, let's give it to Kanyon.
Yeah, so they needed to legitimize this title, and it works for Tajiri, although I guess Tajiri's still... Yeah, Tajiri never went to the Alliance, right?
Now, spoiler, he doesn't keep it that long, though.
Yeah, no, I know he doesn't, but yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh. He was WWF through and through. He threw the ECW t-shirt at Taz and spit mist on it as well and was loyal up until the end of the invasion.
Right.
Steve Austin is backstage. He wants RVD to beat Angle very badly. And this takes us into our hardcore title matches. Rob Van Dam versus Kurt Angle. Belly-to-belly suplex by Angle. Clothesline to RVD. Ankle lock by Angle. A moonsault by RVD. Leg drop to Angle. RVD hits Kurt with a chair. Spine buster to RVD into the chair. Leg drop to Angle with a chair. RVD goes into the post throat shot with the chair by Angle. Head scissors chokehold to Angle. Kurt counters into an ankle lock. RVD taps. And then Stone Cold, so Kurt Angle is your new hardcore champion. Stone Cold throws Angle off the stage, and then he checks on RVD, but then he throws RVD off the stage. So RVD just happens to land on Kurt Angle precisely where Angle's shoulders are down. Austin throws Tim White, almost looks like, get down there before I throw you down there too. And Tim White counts to 3, and RVD gets the hardcore title back. For this matchup, I'm going 3 stars. This was great. It was a very great match. The blows with the chair and everything, it was just awesome. And the fact, the funny part was that he threw RVD off the stage too, and it just landed precisely. So very great match, and RVD ends up winning the hardcore title back. 3 stars. Poor Kurt Angle gets thrown off the stage and gets his ass kicked again, Chief.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I love this. I think that this is not that he ever wasn't, but I feel like this is the beginning of the wrestling machine era of Kurt Angle. It's the beginning. And I love it. I love everything about Kurt Angle at this point too. Like, he's so friggin' good in 2000. He's so good in 2001. It's stupid how fucking good he is. You know?
Yes. Gone is the goofy Kurt Angle type.
But even when he was still that, he was still hilarious and awesome. But no, when Austin starts with the Alliance and he turns into and Kurt Angle's like basically the number 1 face on the show at this point. Yeah, he's this is the beginning of the wrestling machine. He's unbelievable. Yeah. So
Kurt Angle is being taken out on a stretcher. And then now we have Test and Stephanie versus The Rock. Steph joins commentary because she's not going to do anything and she doesn't need to be up there. So just have her on commentary and let Test do all the work. Samoan drop to Test. Test gets tossed to the outside. Clothesline to The Rock. Steph kicks and slaps The Rock. Sidewalk slam to The Rock. A bear hug by Test. DDT to Test. Clothesline to Test. Test counters a rock bottom, a spine buster by Test, a spine buster by The Rock. Steph grabs Rock's leg, a big boot to The Rock. Rock tosses Steph. Booker T comes out. Test gets pushed into Steph, and then a rock bottom to Test. For this matchup, I went 2.5, Keith.
Yeah. Yeah, I would probably agree with you on this. I think 2.5 is probably fine. It's kind of a good back and forth. It's showcasing Test a lot more than he needed to be, but it's still good overall.
Yeah. And Test is still being the enforcer for the Alliance. He puts up a great fight. Again, he has that devastating boot that could have easily have pinned The Rock if that's what they were trying to go for. Soften up The Rock for Booker as well, just like Rob Van Dam is basically softening up Angle for Austin.
Yes.
And Test, I would say, did a very good job being the Alliance's muscle here as well. And it plays off pretty well as The Rock gets the win in San Antonio to send the fans home happy. So The Rock stays strong against the Alliance here.
Yeah.
So it was a very good show. I would actually give this, for the Raw, actually, I would give this a 7, Keith. This is like a 7 to me. I love the matches. I love that Rob Van Dam. I love the Rob Van Dam performance with Kurt, and I love the ending too. You know, between the Alliance and the WWF and The Rock versus Test. It was good, and overall, I'm actually going to give this a 7.
Yeah, that sounds good. I like that idea. 7's a pretty solid one. Sure, absolutely.
I know that there was some bad stuff between like Booker T and the Undertaker, but there were so many just good points that really didn't take a whole lot off, and just Rob Van Dam doing it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like you're right on target. 7 sounds pretty good for this. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, I do want to tell you something kind of interesting about about this date in particular. So, back in the day, I used to go to there was like a little bar that was attached to a bowling alley in my hometown in Malden. And I used to go there on like Monday nights because there was a guy that we were friends with he was a DJ, and he used to do karaoke on Monday nights. So Monday, I swear on my life, this is a true story. On Monday, September 10th, I probably taped Raw and then I watched it when I got home, but we went to go to karaoke. And while we were sitting there waiting for our turn to get up to go sing, my friend and I, you've heard him before, Boston Chris, we're talking about how there hadn't been an era-defining moment for our generation, because our parents had Vietnam, our grandparents obviously had like World War II and Korea and then Depression. And I said, we really haven't had anything. I said, what was our big thing? The Desert Storm in the 90s? I go, it was over before it even started. And then obviously the entire world stopped the following day. So it's just it's so eerie that we were literally talking about it the night before, that there had been no era-defining moment in our generation, and then the whole world ended the next day. So, yeah. That's all.
Gosh. So
maybe I should keep my mouth shut from now on.
No. It's fine. It's fine. So, like I said, now we're getting into where
things are different.
Things are very different. There is no WWF versus Alliance here tonight. This is the first public assembly and first live television event since the tragedies on Tuesday, September 11th. I've listened to a lot from Bruce Pritchard on the 9/11 episode where they canceled the show and everyone was just hanging out together and like comforting. Nobody wanted to go home. They were like, no, we need to do our jobs. Like, we need to do something. Let's put on a show. So with the Houston governor, with the governor of Houston or the governor of Texas, I don't know if Houston had their own governor or not, but the mayor of Houston,
yeah,
the governor of Texas, even they were like talking with people who were working with George Bush Sr.'s faculty. Can we get a show? And they got this show. And it's amazing that the World Wrestling Federation said, we're not going to live in fear. We're going to make people happy, and we're going to give you a show.
Yeah.
So no WWF versus Alliance storylines here tonight. They would have, like, you know, World Wrestling Federation superstars versus the Alliance superstars, obviously, in the matches, but no storyline enhancement. This would also be the end of Raw is War, because we were actually going to war and they didn't need to have the word war in their title anymore. And they would give up the pay-per-view Armageddon in 2001 for vengeance, because they didn't want people complaining about the world was ending and stuff too. So it was very good on Vince and the WWF for what they did.
You know that like the Elimination Chamber they still have that name, even though in Germany it can't be called the Elimination Chamber.
Yes, yes, I do.
I always thought that was kind of funny. No, I think it was. I'm trying to think. This is probably the second time that they like ceased storylines and had like a celebration. And I think the first was the night after Owen Hart died.
Yes, it was.
And then this is probably the second one. And then the third one would have been when Eddie died. And then it would have, well,
it was when Chris.
It was like Benoit death. And ever since then, I'm trying to think if there's been like a tragic death or a tragedy like that. I don't.
The Bray Wyatt one was when they all came together and stood on the. They would always stand on the.
Well, they would do that. Yeah, they would do that. They would do
tributes.
That. But I'm thinking, like, I think if you don't. Well, actually, the Chris Benoit one really didn't. They wasn't that was that like a celebration for him?
No, but they were doing tributes, and I don't even think they had matches, but it wasn't like, I don't even know if they didn't have an audience. I don't even know if they were wrestling or not. But
yeah, I feel like and then I think SmackDown, Vince comes out and he does the whole thing about we're never going to talk about him again, and then I think it was like, I can't remember. I want to say they didn't even have a show that night. Like they canceled the show that night and it wasn't in front of any crowds. But so regardless, the point I was trying to make is that this was the second time that they really didn't advance any kind of storyline, and they just went out there and they performed in front of the crowd. And like I said, it's amazing that they did this, and it was kind of cool because it was like, I mean, that was one of the big things, dude, is like, we can't let the terrorists win and we have to continue pushing on. And it ended up becoming one of those things where like people were goofing on that, the fact that like, the government's telling us to go out and buy shit and don't let the terrorists win, keep buying toys. And, but at the very least it was good because it showed like we needed to begin the healing process of what happened.
And
I don't know.
Solidarity.
Yeah, I don't know if 2 days later it was necessary, but I also can understand where in a time where everybody is feeling like shit, one of the things that's going to bring you out is like suspending belief. That's why, like, you see a lot of people who are going through like a tragedy, like with like the death of a family member or anything, where they're like, I just want to go to work, or I want to go to a movie, or I want to just like, try to take my mind away from what I'm dealing with. And that was kind of good that they did this. They were like, we're going to take people's minds away and let them enjoy the show and all this kind of stuff. And that's what they did. And I, like you said, I give kudos to Vince for that. And that, that's what we should have done,
And also, I think the right call was to have Jim Ross and Paul Heyman do the commentary. Not that I could take Michael, I can take Michael Cole seriously, but this was very too serious that you need a firm voice of, we need your help and we're going to give you a great show tonight. And Paul had to be reminded, hey, we're going to have some fun here, because Paul lived in Scarsdale, New York, and he, I think, was in very, like, just almost didn't want to do the show, it seemed, but he needed to be reminded, and Jim Ross gave him a good pick-me-up. Hey, let's have some fun tonight. And that's what I think brought Paul back to the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is SmackDown, September 13th, 2001. Vince McMahon kicks off the show, says the spirit of America lives in Texas. The WWF extends its condolences to the victims of the terrorist attacks. It says they will not live their lives in fear. Says the United States isn't afraid. And Vince McMahon thanks the fans for coming out and being brave and watching at home, that tonight they're going to entertain everybody. And so what President Bush said, that we can move on with our lives. And to Vince, this is the first, again, public assembly since the tragedies. And, we're here to help you guys get back on track with everything and come and be united together. And then all the superstars from the WWF and Alliance are on the ramp. Lillian Garcia sings a beautiful rendition of the national anthem, and it brought goosebumps to me hearing that one.
Sure.
And she was just crying afterwards. She blew a kiss to the fans that, she's right behind. She's for America and everything. And here we go. We hear from Edge and Ricky Santana. Edge says he didn't think that it was right to do the show, and but it's his job to entertain people. And tonight that is what they are going to do. And we hear from Ricky Santana. This is the only time we ever see the name Ricky Santana.
Yeah.
Not that it's like funny or anything, but it was interesting to see see a random person here. He says, I wish I was back at home in New York, helping out and to let his kids know that dad's coming home. Then we have the Hardy Boys versus the Hurricane and Lance Storm. Fireman carried by Hurricane. Matt mocks Hurricane. Dropkick to Lance. Lance trips Matt. Dropkick to Matt. Crossbody by Hurricane. Russian leg sweep by Matt. Jawbreaker to Lance. Super kick to Matt by Hurricane. Hurricanrana to Hurricane by Lita. Twist of Fate and a Swanton Bomb to Storm for the win. For this matchup, I went 2 stars. It was a solid match. They're not trying to do too much here, and they're just here to put on a show.
Yep, I agree. I think all these are just fun matches, and you're not going to have too much nonsense going on with that. So I agree.
Nope. We hear from Terry. She gives her perspective on what all the kids are going through because she's a mom herself. So she really touches, the fact that some of these kids don't have a mommy or a daddy anymore. And that was really touching too. Everyone had a touching moment. And then we get the Rock. He talks about, he pours his heart out to the fans and to the people of the nation. But I think for The Rock, it's kind of hard for him to break character from time to time like this. What did you think of this one, Keith, like The Rock's, if you watched it?
I did, and I think that it fits in. It fits with what is going on at the time. I mean, you look at how you look at how The Rock is today, and he has that, like, I guess it's good because it shows that different side of him where he's not the people's strudel Rock, and he's the people's champ, and he really is. Like, he's got that X factor that, man, if he just didn't say that he was saving the DCEU, like, people would have probably, like, he probably could have ran for president this year and won. And I think that people he's got something about him that just makes him so likable, And
yes, he does.
And then when you hear about, like, his life and his life story and how he grew up and the $7 and all that, and he's the kind of guy you want, and that's why it was so important, I think, for him to be around at this point. Although you could have had Kurt Angle be the guy too, but yeah, there's just something about The Rock, that I think everybody loves. So yeah.
And then we hear from a man named Jim McIngvale, who, according to Bruce Pritchard, helped set up the show. He's a very popular guy in Houston and in Texas. He loves the WWF. He actually was helping Bruce get a meeting with the doctors to help his wife get better from her cancer. And Jim McIngvale played a role in that, and he also played a role in getting this show going. So very nice that they let Jim McIngvale say a couple of words here.
Yep.
Now we have Rob Van Dam versus Spike Dudley. A funny thing about this match that I caught was Tony Chimmel says that this matchup is a non-title match, but I think Van Dam whispered and said, hey, we're going to put the title on the line and we're going to do some stuff here. So I don't think Tony Chimmel got the message that it was for the hardcore title or not, but he said it's a non-title match, and here's why. Spinning heel kick to Spike, drop kick to RVD, spinning leg kick to Spike, drop kick to Spike with a chair, and then a 5-star frog splash to Spike for the win. I went 1.5 stars. I'm probably overly rating it. Again, this is supposed to be fun, but what got me, it's like, you're using a chair in a non-title match. Isn't that a disqualification? And I think Rob Van Dam whispered to the ref, hey, put the hardcore title on line. We're going to use a chair. So it was call an audible, as they say.
Absolutely, yes, and I think that it was necessary. I mean, yeah, you get this is the time when you do things like this. That's what they're doing. They're having fun, you know.
Yep. We then hear from Chris Jericho, who tells everyone we can be a little bit kinder to each other, hug one another, and help each other out. Michael Hayes, who gives a very good, important speech of "Be careful what you wish for, because you might get it." And he backs up the U.S. troops going to Afghanistan or wherever they are. I know Sean Stasiak, we hear from, he gives his condolences.
It's just Michael Hayes.
Yes,
it's fucking Michael Hayes. Like, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for him to start dancing to friggin' Bad Street.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, everybody, this is Michael Hayes. Doc Hendricks here. You gotta be careful what you wish for.
Oh my God! On the bad streets of the USA.
Let me tell you right now, the fabulous Freebird, everybody.
If Michael Hayes would have given performed a USO show as the Freebirds, yes, I think that's what the world needed, was a USO show. What do you think?
Little Bad Street going to Iraq and Afghanistan.
What do you think, Keith? Should Michael Hayes have performed a USO show?
Of course, absolutely.
And then we hear from Lita, like her heart breaks for everybody. Like she's like, I really don't know what to say. I'm just confused by all this. Like, let's love one another. So some of these are.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like they're getting these people 2 fucking days after. We don't even know what the hell's going on. Like, no one knew what was going on right away. I mean,
yes.
You got to remember, dude, this was pre-Twitter, pre-Facebook. Like, we didn't have any of this stuff, So
this was pick up a newspaper and read.
Yeah, we didn't have any of this. Like, if shit like that happens today, like, they can at least respond in a timely fashion, and it doesn't seem totally out of place. But that was totally out of place, really, for them to be like, given their heartfelt thoughts on and not only that, it's like, do I need to hear friggin' Lita's heartfelt thoughts on not that I want to shit on Lita, I don't, but it's like,
Sean Stasiak,
could you imagine could you imagine that today and having it be like Maxine Dupree, like they're asking Otis what he thinks about it, and it's like, okay, take it easy,
So here's another thing. Deborah did one, it aired, and then it got removed from the Peacock version here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know why, but that was one of them.
That's awesome.
We have now Christian versus Chris Jericho. Christian comes out and he starts talking. Then Jericho mocks the opera song.
Oh,
he's like, "You're a jackass." So that makes Christian mad. Christian counters the walls of Jericho. Jericho goes into the ring post. Flapjack by Jericho. Bulldog to Christian. Christian counters the lion saw by getting the knees up. Jericho gets a surprise roll for the win. I went 1.25. It was all right. I find the surprise roll up a little bit weird, but again, time consuming, and we got to move the show along. But little good fun matchup again.
Absolutely, fun matchup. I agree with you on the rating. Good stuff.
We hear from Canyon, who says that his cousins are police officers and he would like to help. And then we hear from Taz. Taz says he's scared to come home. He wishes he was back in New York helping. He has a little child and a wife at home, and he wishes he was back in New York. And he's a little bit nervous to go back home, because what's home going to be like to Taz when he goes back to New York. So very touching words from Taz. Here's this big tough guy, the suplex machine, and here Taz has a heart.
Yeah, and I think too, it's funny, his little kid, and who's his little kid? Isn't it Hook?
Yep, it's Hook.
Would it have been Hook at the time? It would have been, right? Yeah, Hook's like,
it is Hook.
Yeah, it's Hook. That's so funny to think of that. Not that it's funny, but it's funny to think of that he's Hook. He's talking about.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I mean, and that would have been. That's something that I guess. I'm trying to think. They pretty much showcased all the people that were from New York, right?
Yes.
I think they did. Yeah. So that's good because you want people that are in that New York area to really give their opinions, and that's going to mean a lot. So yes, I think that's good.
We hear from Tori Wilson, Hurricane Helms, and Bubba Ray Dudley. I really didn't have much about them. They just give their condolences.
Yeah.
I don't remember a lot that they said. Then The Rock comes to the ring. He issues a challenge to anyone in the back. Out comes Sean Stasiak with Stacy Keibler. The Rock tosses Stasiak to the outside, and Rock says again for anyone to come out. Rock tosses Stasiak out again, and he says one more time. Anyone who wants to come out for the shot at the WCW title, come out to the ring. Stasiak enters the ring again, and then The Rock says he sees Stasiak running into things all the time, every night. The Rock says Sean and The Rock need to talk about pie. Stasiak says he hates pie. The Rock says Stasiak likes strudel. Then The Rock asks Stacy if she likes pie. And then Stasiak says, well, I came out here for my WCW match. The Rock offers a handshake and a rock bottom to Stasiak. I did not rate this. It was more of a segment, a little fun segment to get the crowd up here.
Yeah. I mean, who better than, well, it would have been who better than Canyon, but who better than Meat? You know, to be, yeah, so yeah.
So then we hear from Ivory. This was a very touching one from Ivory. She was bawling. She was crying very hard. And she said this goes out to the kids that, you know, there's more good people out there than evil people, and that the kids need to be nicer to each other and comfort and be friends with everyone that they can be and all this stuff. And that was very, very hard for Ivory, and it was very hard to watch as well. And then we hear a very good patriotic promo from Bradshaw that we're not going down without a fight, and we do not live in fear. We're here to entertain you, and that no crazy man from a different country is going to destroy us. We will live in unity and everything.
I'm trying to think. Is he wearing an always pounding ass shirt? I can't remember.
I don't know. But he said George Bush was a great governor. Now I'll get to see him become a great president and a great leader.
Well,
I was kind of like, okay, all right.
You know what? I mean,
Yes.
I think at this point, Bush's approval rating went sky high. I think it was the highest it had been I think it was like one of the highest the president's ever had. I
want to say since like FDR in World War II.
Yeah, and even then people didn't. Yeah, so I mean it was it was good, and I think that it's just Ivory, and you have Bradshaw. Those are two people who I think transcend, at least intelligence-wise, like your typical wrestling pro, I guess. And I don't mean to say that they're all stupid, because they're not, but I just think that Bradshaw, obviously, at the time he hadn't even displayed it that much yet, because it's not before he goes into the whole being
Wall Street. Yep.
Yeah, but and Ivory has had that history of being in the industry, but still kind of like a little bit above. Like she's always had that. How do I want to say it? Like ambassador kind of role, and I like that. I liked Ivory. I always liked Ivory, actually. And she was one of those from Glow back in the day. So
Yeah, Ivory has like legend status during this time as well. I think I would say, Keith, she's looked underrated. She did a lot for the women's industry when it was downward. She wasn't placed in the best matches with the best workers except for Jacqueline. And then the whole right to censor thing, she got to work with China, but Ivory was always at it felt like she was the right person, just the wrong place and the wrong time. Because she's always at that time when the women's title was either not being used like it is here because it's gone, or that there's no women to wrestle here.
Ivory's one of those people where I would put her almost like Pete and I talk about this a lot on GFA Live, where we say, like, if we could have the DeLorean and like transport somebody from one era and put them into another, like, she would be there where I would like to take her, and I would love to take Sensational Sherry and transport them into like today. Like, we could get a prime Ivory, and I say prime like in her prime, like not even the 90s, like even just beforehand when she was like wrestling for Glow and shit. But like, take a prime Ivory and a prime Sherry and put them in the mix now with the likes of what we have in the women's division now, and it would be so much fun to watch, because I think those are two women who helped bring the women's wrestling from just being like just
showgirls,
the garbage, from what you saw beforehand, and brought it up. So I liked Ivory. She's underrated. Absolutely, she's underrated. She's not in the Hall of Fame, is she?
No, she is.
She is. Well, that's good. Good. Yeah, no, she's still she's still good. You know.
Yes, she is.
And she still looks good too. Because she was in the Rumble like a year or two ago? She was in the Women's Rumble, and she still looks good.
Yes, she does.
So, I mean, good for her. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now we have X-Pac and Albert still going by the X Factor here versus the APA. Farouk gives X-Pac a backbreaker, spinning heel kick to Farouk. Tag to Bradshaw and Albert. Big boot to Albert. Clothesline to Bradshaw. A bicycle kick to Farouk. Spinebuster to X-Pac. A DDT to Albert. Fallaway slam to X-Pac. Clothesline from hell by Bradshaw. For this matchup, I'm going 2 1/4 for what I just said. A lot of action packed in for a short amount of time, but everybody got their stuff in. I would give it 2 1/4.
I'm not going to fight you on this. I mean, the ending is exactly what I wanted to see, because I just get...
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead. What would you give it, Keith?
Oh, no. No, I would probably... I mean, I can't, because here's the thing. X Factor X-Pac is the worst version of X-Pac, so it's the worst version.
X Factor's over.
X Factor... No, X Factor X-Pac is the worst version of Sean Waltman ever.
Yes.
So... I'm just going to leave it at that. And
okay.
So the faster we get out of this, the better off we are. But yes, no. X Factor. You did it with the X Factor.
And the faction is over. Just Incredible's in the alliance. You're basically trying to hold on to something that's not there anymore.
Just incredible.
I'll tell you, Keith, when I had Marcus on, he thought in August of 2001 that X Factor was just beginning. And I was like, no, it's over, man. This is just X-Pac trying to hold on for dear life for no reason.
Oh God, where was it that it was that ECW. Wait, was it the GCW show in Connecticut that I was supposed to go to with Matt? And we didn't end up going, and Just Incredible came out, and he's all...
Yeah, I was there with Matt. I was there with Susan.
But no, that wasn't the one that you were that... No, that wasn't the one that he came out at the end, and he's all, like, fat, and he's like...
Oh.
It was the one we were going to go to, but it's not the one you went to with him. Matt and I were going to go, but we ended up not going in Hartford. But it was like, we watched it, because, like, we ended up watching it, and he comes out, and he's got a big beer belly, and then he's also got a big fat ass, and I'm like, this is an odd thing. Like, I've never seen this before. He looked like an S, and I was like, what's going on with Just Incredible? And I'm like, that's not Aldo Montoya. It was so bad. Like, he looks terrible.
Yeah, Keith, was that in 2023 of July?
Yeah, was it that one? Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Because if it was, then
No,
that was
that's
the
not.
one.
No. That's not the one with the big fan. That's not that one. No, this was. I forget what show it was. It was like the next one that was supposed to be in. That was in Hartford, but no, not the one with. Not with the one where the big fan was blowing Matt. Not that one. No. No, that's the one that you went to. Yeah.
Yeah, because Justin Credible was there as well.
He was.
Yes.
Oh, that's because he lives in Connecticut. That's why.
And he looked like you said, his ass.
He looks like an S.
Yes, it's so bad.
Poor Justin Credible.
Yep. And now we hear from Kurt Angle giving a rah speech.
Yeah.
And but they needed that because Kurt Angle is the face of the WWF now with the whole USA. So this fits in with Kurt, and the crowd loved it because they were behind Kurt, and they felt like he was a spokesman for USA at this time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God! Hold on, I'm looking up. Do you know that he was in the Joey Janela Spring Break Clusterfuck Forever, that Battle Royal? He was
who? Just Incredible?
Yeah, he was in that Battle Royal.
Oh
boy.
Jesus. So now we have Booker T versus the Big Show.
Yep.
Chops in a big boot to Booker. Booker goes into the guardrail. Clothesline by Show. Sit down splash by Show. Scissors kick the Show. And then 2 more scissors kicks for the win. I want a star and a quarter. It's almost essentially a squash, but like you just got to do scissors kick after scissors kick.
Yeah.
There's really, I mean, again, it's all trying just to have fun and everything, but this is a little off balanced here.
Yeah.
So I want a star and a quarter.
Yeah. 01 Big Show is kind of meh. He's meh at best. But it was nice to see Booker T like get a little shine here, so I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. We hear from Lance Storm, Devon Dudley, and Michael Territon. I think he was the recipients of the Medal of Honor. Lance Storm, it's odd, but he brings up a good point that he says that he'll be afraid to be on an airplane. Things are going to change, and I want to go home every night to my wife and child. So it was a very good stuff here from Lance Storm, Devon, and Michael Territon. I think that's how you say his name.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have Lita versus Ivory. Kicks to Lita, clothesline to Ivory, face plant to Lita, clothesline by Ivory, Hurricanrana, a twist of fate, and a moonsault by Lita for the win. I want a star on this. Ivory gets no shots in.
No.
And it's just like, okay, whatever.
Wow, I guess you're good with the moonsault, I guess, because you don't even want to give it a dud. You're not going to give it a dud?
No, I was just like, you know what? I'm overrating it. You can give it a dud. It is bad. No, I respect your rating. I overrated. Yes, I do.
All right.
Because again, I was trying to be generous.
And it's so sad too, because I just gave such a wonderful compliment to Ivory, and then she comes out here and
does nothing.
It is booked into a friggin' big fart of a fucking match.
Again, time constraints and everything. So
yeah, I know.
Yeah. So then we hear from Stacy Keibler. This was a very good promo from Stacy.
Mm-hmm.
She says you only hear about like these sort of things in textbooks because being a young person, this relates back to what you were saying to your friend Keith. We only hear about these types of things in history books, with World War II and Vietnam. Yeah. And now we are living it, and we need to come together and be one. And, my condolences go out to everybody too. So Stacy putting the, nailed it on the head that you think that you only hear about these things and that, it's not going to happen again. And it did. So very good words from Stacy Keibler. We hear from Stone Cold. He really doesn't know what to say. He gives his condolences.
Yeah.
Because again, it's Stone Cold. Like it's like he has a hard time breaking character too. Yeah. Then we hear from Booker T, and let's get to it. We hear from Stephanie McMahon.
Yep.
She says that the government, people tried to take down her father and they attacked my family and everything.
Oh God, that was the worst. It was the worst.
I watched it again, and it doesn't seem that bad. What seems bad now is what we hear about Vince McMahon now and everything. This doesn't really grow.
For her to even just at all compare what's happening in America to what's happened to her family, it's like, okay, like, take it easy, Stephanie. Like, calm
I know.
Like,
but he died.
I know, and I'm sorry. It's so weird. Like,
it is.
Take it easy, and I think that and it's so funny because everybody else is just so oh God, if I could say this, and I don't want to get political, but it's like how every time Donald Trump tries to talk, he talks about how like whatever's happening affects him personally, and it's like, buddy, take it easy. Like, it's not
exactly.
Like, there was no reason for her to say anything about attacking her family. But you know what? This is also that period of time, I feel like, where Stephanie is really trying to like outdo Shane as far as like the favorite child. Like, I don't know. Well, I don't know if I've ever had this conversation with you before, but like all of Stephanie's, so Vince McMahon's birthday is the same as mine. Okay. And when you look at Stephanie's kids, all of her kids are born around Vince's birthday. I think the last one's actually born on Vince's birthday. And like you look at Shane, it's like the kids' birthdays are all over the fucking year. And it's like, I feel like Stephanie specifically was like, all right, Hunter, I need you to get me pregnant so that I can have a baby on Daddy's birthday. Like, and it's just, it just goes to show, like, this is that time period where Stephanie's doing everything she can to be like Vince's number one kid. And, I mean, I think it paid off because clearly Vince loved her more than I think he loved friggin' Shane. But, in retrospect, probably not a good idea,
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah, like I watched it again. And I was like, it's not that bad, but I understand where everybody's coming from. So, Yep. Then we have a 6-man tag. It's Test and the Dudley Boys versus William Regal, Tajiri, and Scotty 2 Hotty. Gee, that's a very odd pairing. Just to get everybody on the show, especially since they come out to Scotty's music, and Regal is like, "What in the hell is this?"
Regal. Yeah, no, that's a bizarre combination right there. It's almost like I feel like Scotty 2 Hotty was a replacement for somebody else. Who were they with the at Raw? Well, no, it was Tori Wilson. So I
guess they had nobody left there. Like, Scotty, you want to wrestle? Sure.
Yeah, because I'm even thinking like, who are they gonna put? Like, they can't really pair anybody with them. Because Test was like, what's Test doing? So it's so weird. I feel like Scotty 2 Hotty is just like he's at catering, and they're like, let's go ahead and put Scotty 2 Hotty with these two guys.
Mm-hmm.
So
need a Devon's head, kicks the Devon, clothesline by Test. Bubba misses the ass dive. I call it the ass dive because he always lands on his ass. Test trips Scotty, missed the Devon, handspring elbow to Bubba, the worm to Bubba, and a big boot to Test for the win. I gave it a 1.5 stars. Everyone got their shit in.
Yeah, 1.5 stars is probably about right. Yeah.
And we hear from Lillian Garcia, who says that she was very blessed, and okay, that her friend missed her meeting and she sends her condolences out to everybody. Then we hear from Farouk, who gives a powerful speech like Bradshaw. William Regal was kind of odd. Like, Regal is not good talking in front of a camera about his feelings. And especially, he gets a lot of criticism for his Chris Benoit message on the tribute show as well, too.
Yeah.
And he's not very good at these. I don't know why he thought it'd be a great idea to do this. And we finally get Albert. So finally, we're done with these segments here.
Yes.
Now we have our main event. It is Rhino versus Kurt Angle. Crossbody by Angle. Rhino goes to the outside. Airplane spin by Rhino into a slam. Belly-to-belly suplex by Rhino. Angle counters the gore. And then he gets a gore to Kurt Angle. Angle kicks out. And Angle slams to Rhino for the win. For this matchup, I went 2 stars. It was a very good, happy ending match. And Kurt Angle got the biggest pop for the win. And like the fireworks are going off and there's confetti and stuff. And it's all about USA, USA, USA. So this was a very touching win here.
Yeah. And this is how you end the show correctly. Having the guy who, the Olympic gold hero, the Olympic gold medal winning guy, he's the hero of the country at this point. This is what you do. This is perfect how they book it at the end. And yeah, I think it's great.
I'm actually going to give this a solid 10 out of 10, because it was a very good way of saying, hey, you know what? We're going to entertain the crowd and we're going to do it our way. And we're blessed that the U.S. governors let us do this and that they were able to do this. So again, big props to Vince McMahon and the WWF superstars who came out, everybody who came out and wanted to entertain the fans. Also, Keith, at the end of the show, there was a dark match. It was between Stone Cold and The Rock, and The Rock pinned Stone Cold. So a little surprise entertainment there. I don't know where the match is, but I think it was good to let Angle have the end and then just give him a little show for a little something extra to make them a little bit more happy to see the Rock and Stone Cold wrestle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Nice.
Well, that's going to do it to us from our shows here tonight. But Keith, do you have anything that you want to direct the listeners to? I know you have a lot of shows since you started a new journey on the Backbone.
I know. So on the Backbone Wrestling Network, you can hear me on The Shit Take with Sean Kidd. And you can also hear a new show that we have coming out, Hands of Z, which is where we review a Rugged Ronnie or One Man Gang Ronnie Garvin match and a Larry Zbyszko Living Legend match. And Sean is trying to convince me that both of those guys are worth a damn. And we'll have to see where we go during that journey. But those are both on the Backbone Wrestling Network. You can also hear me on the North-South Connection podcast network on A La Carte with Keithy every other Friday. And every once in a while, a Hail to the Keith which is the #1 history-based podcast on the North-South Connection podcast network. And then, of course, you can hear me every week with my BFF, Petey Winston, on GFA Live. Find that on your own podcatcher app, Spotify, or on Apple Podcasts and stuff. You can check me out on the artist formerly known as Twitter, otherwise known as X, at Flounder824. And what I'd love to plug also is definitely check out everything that the Jenny Position does on the North-South Connection podcast network. One of my favorite shows that she does is Talkin' Docs. And that's a great show she does with Cowboy Roger, and of course Log Jim, Logan Crosland. So check those out, and please listen to everything that my wonderful guest here, or my wonderful host, I should say, James Gruenberg does, because the man is without a doubt the best, biggest, and boldest wrestling fan there is, and I love him to death, and he's amazing. So keep listening to everything Gruney shows up on. He has. I'm gonna plug it for you. He has an amazing show, the Gruney Junior High. It's the best. Anything for all Degrassi fans. You want to listen to the Gruney Junior High? It's a great show. But tell us about the Gruney Junior High, Gruney.
Well,
tell us about it.
I guess I am going to change the title. I want to see how this works. We're going to get into it, but me and John Kesalika, we do a show on. It's called Whatever It Takes, but it's going to get changed, and it's about covering the Degrassi Next Generation series that ran for 14 seasons. It outlasted Beverly Hills 90210. We're in season 1, episodes 3 and 4, where Toby and Ashley are fighting at home, and Toby enters his best friend JT in the race to become class president against his stepsister Ashley. And we have the girl named Terry getting enough confidence to go to the dance, but will her friend Paige have other things in mind? So you can catch all of that on Whatever It Takes or to Gruney Junior High. So
it's so good because it's literally you guys are talking. There's nothing better than Canadian teen drama. Let's put it that way.
Also, you can find me on the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed. I have Extreme Resurrection with Steve Riddle. We're covering ECW on Sci-Fi from 2006 to 2010. We just covered the Halloween edition of. We just covered ECW from October 23rd and October 30th on ECW, where CM Punk has one of 3 choices to face at Cyber Sunday. Will be The Miz, Big Daddy V, or John Morrison. And we have the big Monster Mash Battle Royale on the Halloween episode of ECW. So that and much more you can find and listen to. Listen to everything that Keith has and what I have. Well, that is going to do us here tonight on Nation Invasion. I want to thank my guest, Keith Langston, for doing this important show with me. I don't think I could have had a better guest than you to do this show.
Thank you, sweetie. Thank you, my bud. I love you so much. You're the best.
Be prepared as we, the nation, bring the invasion.